Live from the GCL STEM Academy.
It's STEM Night Live!
With your hosts, Jonathan Johnson and Aiden Reagan.
With musical guest Jesse Bross and Cameron Farid.
Hello, welcome to STEM Night Live. I'm your co-host, Jonathan Sariaga.
And I'm your co-host, Aiden Reagan.
So essentially, STEM Night Live is like your typical variety show. We showcase trends in political science, some current and some historical.
The show includes a variety of acts, some being news broadcasts, but others skits and even musical performances.
So we hope you enjoy it, and we're going to begin with our first sketch, which details the executive branch of government.
In current news, President Joe Biden's audience with Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II this weekend during the G7 summit was very telling of where his political relationships lie and his taking advantage of his bully pulpits. From June 11th to June 13th, the 47th Group of Seven summit was held, in which world leaders from Canada, France, Germany, Japan, Italy, the UK, and the US were all dedicated to drive a global green industrial revolution, came together to discuss ideas and issues such as the current COVID-19 pandemic.
Compared to former President Trump, President Biden receives positive messages from the Queen through her brooches. In 2018, in the presence of Trump, Her Majesty wore 3 brooches: a brooch gifted by the Obamas, a funeral brooch, and a Canadian brooch, alluding to her loyalty to Canada during times of tension and disapproval of Trump. However, with Biden, she wore a Jardine star brooch, worn on holidays and gatherings. She also wore this brooch with George H.W. Bush, which she described as a great friend and ally of the United Kingdom and a patriot. Perhaps in the eyes of the Queen, Biden is a strong unitary executive, like Hamilton describes in Federalist 70, as he exudes energy so much so that the Queen had private tea time with him. Moving on to 1 o'clock news.
Hi everyone, so we're the executive branch too, and we'll be covering the recent news that is the declaration of Juneteenth as a national holiday. So what is Juneteenth? It's a day that is celebrated on the 19th of June to commemorate the emancipation of enslaved people in the U.S. So Juneteenth was first celebrated in Texas in 1865, and the historical context is that this was right after the Civil War, where slaves were declared free under the terms of the 1862 Emancipation Proclamation written by Abraham Lincoln. It was official when General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, and delivered General Order number 3. Okay. And then recently, Biden has proposed that Juneteenth become a national holiday, as although, quote, federal holidays are purposely few in number, it's important to recognize the important milestones. As Carolyn Maloney stated, later referring to Juneteenth as being one of these important milestones that need to be recognized. And so Biden proposed this idea, which was supported by both chambers of Congress, and then the Senate approved the bill unanimously on Tuesday, June 15th, with no need for a filibuster. And additionally, the House passed it in a vote of 415 to 14, which with only Republicans being the 14. So the Republican officials who had no vote or voted against were Mo Brooks from Alaska, Andy Biggs from Arizona, Scott Desjarlais from Tennessee, Tom Tiffany from Wisconsin, Doug LaMalfa from California, Mike Rogers from Alaska, Ralph Norman from South Carolina, Chip Roy from Texas, Paul Gosar from Arizona, Tom McClintock from California, Matt Rosendale from Montana, Johnny Jackson from Tennessee, Thomas Measy from Kentucky, and Andrew Clyde from Georgia.
And today at 3:30 p.m. Eastern Time, Biden will sign the bill at the White House officiating this new national holiday. Here we can see both Biden and Congress exercising their implied and enumerated powers in order to turn this bill into law. Although the president did not issue an executive order, he used his line of communication with Congress to propose the bill so they could use the powers granted to them by Article 1 of the Constitution. This is a prime example of the executive and legislative branches working together to implement laws they both see fit. Juneteenth National Independence Day will be the 12th legal public holiday. right after Martin Luther King Day, which was signed into law by President Ronald Reagan in 1983.
Today, congressional Republicans and Democrats are in gridlock over President Biden's American Jobs Plan. Liberals have been showing their support for the plan because they argue that we need to improve our infrastructure, including roads, transit, and broadband improvements, which the plan addresses. On the other hand, conservatives are opposed to this plan because they argue that the tax increases and deficit spending is not worth it.
My name is Classy Jim from The Office. Currently, the majority and minority whips are in tense negotiations. Conservatives believe that the bill is too expensive and expansive. In addition, it goes against their principle of laissez-faire economics, which states that the government should not intervene in the market, and the market is for the people, not for the government. However, the bill still may pass, as Democrats have the majority in the Senate, in the House of Representatives, and in the presidency. But if the conservatives get the support of enough moderate congressmen and women, such as Joe Manchin, the bill will be stuck in the Finance Committee. This plan is broken from giving money to national agencies and state and local governments. The money given to state and local governments are in forms of block and categorical grants. This ranges from giving money for specific topics or broad topics. Thank you. Next is Jason with the charts.
According to the data, provisions for the President's Jobs Plan are broken into 5 categories. Internet, electric, and water with 13.8%, schools and hospitals with 14.6%, healthcare with 17.8%, transportation with 27.6%, and R&D, jobs and factories, at 26.2%. So within each of these categories, there's even further breakdowns for, as you can see here, transportation, R&D, jobs and factories, healthcare, and internet, electric, and water. So within each of those categories, you can see exactly where everything is going to be going towards.
Now let's take a look at what this means money-wise. It is estimated that the total spending for this plan will be $2.65 trillion, with the internet, electric, and water running at $311 billion, schools and hospitals at $328 billion, healthcare at $400 billion, research and development as well as jobs and factories at $590 billion, and finally transportation at $621 billion.
Welcome to this live video debate. I am Republican Representative Seth Grove from York, Pennsylvania.
Hello, I'm Democratic Representative Margot Davison from Delaware County.
Today, folks, in this wonderful committee, I'm going to be introducing my new 149-page bill that's going to improve the way our elections in our great state of Pennsylvania take place. Because we all know that our election in 2020 was stolen from our great 45th President Donald J. Trump due to cheating in Philadelphia and our big cities. This new law will change that.
The only thing that your garbage bill will be improving upon is the trends of decreasing voter turnout. What a conservative move. For people of this committee, I know it's a long bill, but if you had a chance to actually read it, you will realize how the redundancy of the bill truly is. The circulating measures that the Representative Seth Grove is proposing host a lot of post-vote reviews as well as audits. They basically want a caveat switch for every person that says they want to vote, which will, of course, decrease voter turnout. But hey, it's what you deserve, is what they're saying.
What you don't know is that this bill is going to make it easier for disabled people to vote and will allow for fixes in the mail-in voting system, which is a big problem that plagued the last election, with people getting 2, maybe even 3 mail-in votes.
My representative right here is talking about other states. He's talking about the election. The only thing that last election has played in this decision in the bill was once a sore loser, always sore loser. So take the wise words of your fallen candidate, Donald J. Trump, and take it to heart from the TV show The Apprentice, and you're fired. And I also want to bring up other states. He wants us to basically come Arizona with his long election audit that takes so long to process. He's trying to make Pennsylvania the lamest place in the world to vote. We already have North Korea for that.
What you don't understand, my great friend representative, is that people from other states like New York and Maryland and New Jersey are coming in and they're voting in our elections. Maybe that's how your great Governor Tom Wolf got elected. We're going to expand ID requirements for our registration process and voting processes, which is going to make sure we know who's voting and that people don't get to vote twice. That's going to create a free and fair election process and protect Pennsylvania voters. Not what you want to do.
Voters. I keep on hearing this word voters and voters. But at the end of the day, I'm the one. Our parties are the one affecting the voters' rights because you don't trust them. It's just another fat case of taking away the privacy of one's voting rights. It's sad to say this is a form of defranchising voters. It isn't new, but what can you expect? Rehashing ideas constantly is what the Republican Party does best.
Let me tell you this. The registration deadline, 30 days. Bringing it down to 15. Drop boxes, 30 to 15. You cannot be able to request mail-in ballots below 15 days of the election. 15 days. That's all you have. What's this obsession with 30 with you guys? 30. You got like 3 weeks to count these votes. You don't need 3 weeks to count mail-in votes. And these drop boxes, these counts are going to be monitored by election inspectors from both major parties. How is that partisan if both major parties are going to be monitoring it?
I guess patience is the one thing Republicans really do lack. I guess the time of citizens means very little to Representative Grove. We should call him Representative Speed Racer since he needs to accelerate the voter timeline since time is the greatest enemy towards short-sighted voters, which is primarily what you guys have. Don't you agree?
Overall, this bill will improve trust with our voters in Pennsylvania, our great state, because you don't need 3 weeks to count these votes. And my liberal friend, we are the majority in this great house, so I think we get to decide how our election laws take place, if you don't mind.
You keep on talking about majority and so forth, but at the end of the day, this is just like Federalist 10. If you're one of the factions that want your own self-interest, believing that because you lost the party, because you lost the election with Donald J. Trump, you thought every other election has to be changed. But at the end of the day, you can try to gridlock all you can with us. But at the end of the day, the people's rights, the voting rights, will prevail at the end of the day.
Let me tell you this, Representative, I don't think we're going to get any farther with this debate, so I'll see you on the floor, and I can assure you this bill will pass.
In other news, the Supreme Court is set to hear a case that has the potential to overturn the 1973 case Roe v. Wade. Recently, Mississippi has passed an anti-abortion law that bans abortions after someone reaches 15 weeks of their pregnancy. Many other states are attempting to follow in suit, but there are numerous advocates protesting these kinds of legislation. For some background, Roe v. Wade is a landmark Supreme Court case where a couple in Texas were trying to have an abortion, but Texas legislation forbade it. Someone by the anonymous name of Jane Roe filed a case stating that it was against the Bill of Rights, specifically Amendments 1, 4, 5, and 9, and the 14th Amendment, because the law went against a woman's right to personal privacy, which was established in the case of Connecticut v. Griswold. This case had a 7-2 decision in favor of Jane Roe, where the majority stated that because of the Due Process Clause in the 14th Amendment, where the state cannot take away an individual's right to life, liberty, or property, a right to privacy was inherently protected and a part of the civil liberties or rights protected from the government. Moreover, the current case is heavily relying on the past decision made with the Roe v. Wade, where the Supreme Court could use a stare decisis, where they would use precedents already set by previous Supreme Court rulings to make current decisions. Some also speculate that since Ruth Bader Ginsburg was replaced by Amy Coney Barrett, she could influence a turnover of the holding for Roe v. Wade due to her conservative beliefs. Her behavior when handling the case, however, cannot remove her from position as Supreme Court Justice, as outlined in Federalist 78, where judges have lifetime appointments, so they work objectively for the people. As of now, the court is exercising its power to judicial review, which is outlined in Federalist 78, but was established in the landmark case of Marbury v. Madison. The document specifically describes that the Supreme Court should be able to determine whether laws and decisions of Congress are constitutional. Alexander Hamilton promoted an independent judiciary to combat its lack of power in comparison to the other branches, so it's the perfect time for the courts to demonstrate who makes the final calls. More news will come as this story develops further.
Old MacDonald wanted a gun, E-I-E-I-O. And in his neighborhood there were none. E-I-E-I-O. With a crime here and a crime there. Here a crime, there a crime, everywhere a crime. Old MacDonald wanted a gun. E-I-E-I-O. Old MacDonald wanted a gun. E-I-E-I-O. And Chicago didn't let him have one. E-I-E-I-O. Denying a firearm here and a firearm there. Here a firearm, there a firearm, everywhere no firearms. Old MacDonald wanted a gun. E-I-E-I-O.
Now this could only happen to a guy like me, and only happen in a town with this charm. So the Supreme Court ruled most gratefully to selectively incorporate the right to bear arms. This is my kind of town. Chicago is my kind of town. Chicago is my kind of people too. People who take guns from you, and each time there's a fight, Chicago is taking away my rights. Chicago is why I support the NRA. That's why SCOTUS ruled my way.
Thank you so much for watching. This has been
STEM Night Live.